The Simpsons has sparked more real-world chaos than any animated show in television history. Over 35 seasons and more than 750 episodes, this cartoon family has triggered international lawsuits, forced network censorship, caused diplomatic incidents, and ignited cultural firestorms that changed the entertainment industry forever. These weren't just angry tweets or bad reviews. We're talking about foreign governments threatening legal action, organized religious campaigns, forcing dialogue changes, entire countries banning episodes permanently, and one episode so controversial that the creators themselves erased it from existence. Today, I'm breaking down the 8 Simpsons episodes that caused the most massive backlash, ranked from least to most insane, starting with the episode that broke the show's golden covenant with fans, The Principal and the Pauper. This episode either destroyed the Simpsons golden age or represents the exact moment fans realized it was already gone. In season 9's The Principal and the Pauper, the show revealed that Principal Seymour Skinner, a character fans had known for 8 years, wasn't actually Seymour Skinner at all. He was Armin Tamzarian, a street punk from Capital City who stole the real Skinner's identity after Vietnam. The real Skinner shows up, voiced by Martin Sheen, and the town immediately rejects him, ties him to a freight train, and sends him out of Springfield forever. Judge Snyder literally orders everyone to never mention it again under penalty of torture. The backlash was instant and devastating. Harry Shearer, the voice of Skinner, called it out in the harshest terms possible. He said the writers were taking something that an audience has built 8 years or 9 years of investment in and just tossed it in the trash can for no good reason. He added that it was so arbitrary and gratuitous, and it's disrespectful to the audience. Matt Groening himself, the creator of the entire show, called it a mistake in Rolling Stone and described it as one of his least favorite episodes on the season 9 DVD commentary. John Hine, the guy who literally invented the term jumping the shark, pointed to this exact episode in his book as the moment the Simpsons jumped the shark. The fan community treated it like a betrayal. On Usenet's alt.tv.simpsons, which was basically Reddit before Reddit existed, the episode became ground zero for the golden age is over narrative. Fans dissected every decision, questioned every joke, and declared this the official end of classic Simpsons. Chris Turner wrote in his 2004 book Planet Simpson that this was the broadcast that marked the abrupt plunge from the show's peak. WatchMojo ranked the Skinner reveal as the #1 entry on top 10 cartoon moments that made fans rage quit. The show itself essentially retconned the episode in later seasons, quietly pretending it never happened. Groening has said it's not canon. Here's where it gets weird. Ken Keeler, the writer of the episode, has called it the best work he's ever done. He stands by it completely. While the entire cast, the creator, and the fan base condemned it as the worst mistake in Simpsons history, Keeler thinks it's brilliant. The episode aired in 1997. 27 years later, fans still argue about whether this episode killed the show's golden age or if the golden age was already dead, and this just made everyone notice. Either way, the damage was done. The show's credibility with its core audience never fully recovered. But if you think fans turning on the show is bad, wait until you hear about the episode that got banned by its own network before it could even air. Homer's Phobia. This episode was declared completely unacceptable for television by the network that produced it. In season 8's Homer's Phobia, Homer befriends John, a gay antiques dealer voiced by legendary filmmaker John Waters, and everything goes great until Homer realizes John is gay. Homer panics, becomes convinced that Bart might turn gay from spending time with John, and launches increasingly absurd schemes to toughen up his son. The episode ends with John saving Homer's life, earning Homer's acceptance and respect. And by any measure, it's a thoughtful, funny episode about confronting homophobia. Fox's Standards and Practices Department thought otherwise. Here's what normally happened with Simpsons scripts. The censors would review the script, send back notes on specific lines or jokes that needed changes, and the writers would revise accordingly. Standard process. But when the Homer's Phobia script went to Standards and Practices, it came back with 2 full pages of objections to nearly every single line in the episode. Showrunner Bill Oakley said the censors objected to every single thing in the episode that had to do with being gay or the word gay. The final paragraph of their notes declared the episode unacceptable for broadcast. Not specific jokes, not certain scenes. The entire episode was banned before a single frame was animated. The Simpsons staff sent it to animation in South Korea anyway. They just ignored the ban completely and had the episode fully produced. By the time the finished episode came back from overseas, the Fox president who had banned it was fired. New executives reviewed it with fresh eyes. The new Standards and Practices report came back with exactly one line: acceptable for broadcast. John Waters captured the absurdity perfectly on the DVD commentary when he said, "It's all politics. Same episode, same content. Completely different verdict based purely on who was in charge that week." The episode aired on February 16th, 1997. It won an Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program. It won a GLAAD Media Award for its positive portrayal of LGBT characters. It became a landmark moment in television history for its thoughtful handling of homophobia. Entertainment Weekly called it a cultural milestone. Years later, it even became evidence in a Russian lawsuit claiming The Simpsons promoted homosexuality. The case was thrown out after one day in court, but the fact remains that Fox's own censors tried to kill this episode entirely, and only a corporate reshuffling saved it from being buried forever. But at least that episode eventually aired. The next one got censored after broadcast, and the changes became permanent. Sunday, cruddy Sunday. The Catholic League forced Fox to literally rewrite dialogue that had already aired on television. In season 10's Sunday, cruddy Sunday, which aired right after Super Bowl 33 in 1999, there's a scene where Marge and Lisa are watching TV at home. A fictional commercial comes on showing scantily clad women servicing a car at a gas station. One woman is wearing a cross necklace prominently displayed. The voiceover announces the Catholic Church. We've made a few changes. The joke lasted maybe 5 seconds. The controversy lasted months. William Donahue, president of the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights, launched a full-scale organized campaign against Fox. The network received several hundred letters and emails, and executive producer Mike Scully noticed something suspicious. They all started with the exact same phrase. "My family and I have always enjoyed The Simpsons. Until last night." Some of the letters came from third graders making identical arguments with identical wording, which strongly suggested a coordinated letter-writing operation orchestrated by the Catholic League. Donahue escalated the pressure by publishing the name and business address of Roland McFarlane, Fox's vice president of broadcast standards and practices, on the front page of the Catholic League's monthly newsletter. This wasn't just complaints. This was targeted pressure on a specific executive by name. The strategy worked. McFarlane contacted Scully and asked him to change the word Catholic to Methodists, Presbyterians, or Baptists, anything but Catholic. Scully refused outright, but Fox's corporate leadership overruled him and removed the word Catholic from the voiceover in every single rerun and syndication broadcast going forward. The line became, "The church. We've made a few changes." The joke lost its entire punch without specifying which church, but Fox didn't care. Scully was furious. He told reporters, "People can say hurtful things to each other about their weight, their race, their intelligence, their sexual preference, and that all seems up for grabs. But when you get into religion, some people get very nervous." Journalists from the Boston Herald and Los Angeles Times condemned Fox for caving to organized religious pressure instead of standing by its creative team. The National Catholic Register, on the other hand, celebrated it as a victory in their fight with Fox TV. The original line with Catholic was only restored years later on the season 10 DVD release, but every broadcast version remained censored. This wasn't just network standards reviewing a script before production. This was a religious organization successfully pressuring a major network to permanently alter dialogue in an episode that had already aired to millions of viewers. But if you think organized religious campaigns are intense, wait until you hear about the episode that triggered a lawsuit backed by a foreign president. Blame It on Lisa, a sitting head of state, publicly supported legal action against Homer Simpson. In season 13's Blame It on Lisa, the Simpson family travels to Rio de Janeiro to search for a missing Brazilian orphan that Lisa had been sponsoring. What follows is a parade of stereotypes so broad and so inaccurate that it caused an international incident. Homer gets kidnapped by a taxi driver within minutes of arriving. Bart gets mugged by street children. The favelas are shown with rats that have been painted bright colors so tourists wouldn't be offended. Monkeys roam freely on Copacabana Beach. A children's TV host is hypersexualized on camera. And perhaps most damningly, many characters speak with Spanish accents instead of Portuguese, which is the actual language of Brazil. Rio de Janeiro's official tourism board, had just spent $18 million over 3 years on an aggressive marketing campaign to attract American tourists. This episode aired on March 31st, 2002, and immediately threatened to undo all of that work. Rio Tour announced plans to sue Fox for damaging the city's international image and reputation. A Rio Tour spokesman explained what really hurt was the idea of the monkeys, the image that Rio de Janeiro was a jungle. Then President Fernando Henrique Cardoso, the actual sitting president of Brazil, publicly supported the lawsuit and stated that the episode brought a distorted vision of Brazilian reality. The president of a nation with a population of 170 million people was actively backing legal action against a cartoon. Executive producer James L. Brooks issued a response that perfectly captured the show's attitude toward the controversy. He said, "We apologize to the lovely city and people of Rio de Janeiro, and if that doesn't settle the issue, Homer Simpson offers to take on the president of Brazil on Fox's Celebrity Boxing." Showrunner Al Jean added, "Every other place has had a good sense of humor. Brazil caught us by surprise." The threat was real enough that when the episode finally finally aired in Brazil in December 2002, Fox was legally required to add a disclaimer before the broadcast, noting that Fox was not responsible for the producer's vision of Brazil. American lawyers ultimately advised Reuter that the First Amendment made the lawsuit essentially unwinnable in U.S. courts, and the legal action was quietly abandoned. The show did eventually return to Brazil in season 25 with an episode that was notably more careful, more researched, and treated the country with actual respect. But the damage from Blame It on Lisa created a genuine diplomatic incident between the United States and Brazil. News outlets in both countries covered the story extensively. Brazilian newspapers ran headlines about the insult from The Simpsons. American media covered the absurdity of a foreign government threatening to sue a cartoon. The episode became an international embarrassment for Fox and a case study in how not to portray foreign countries on American television. But Brazil at least considered legal action and then backed down. The next episode got permanently banned across multiple countries and has never been unbanned. 30 Minutes Over Tokyo. This episode was banned across an entire continent and remains banned to this day. In season 10's 30 Minutes Over Tokyo, The Simpsons travel to Japan for a budget vacation. Homer throws Emperor Akihito into a dumpster full of sumo thongs and declares himself Emperor Clobbersaurus. A Hello Kitty factory is shown grinding up actual cats and incinerating them alive to make merchandise. A segment parodies battling seizure robots, directly referencing the 1997 Pokemon episode that hospitalized 685 Japanese children with lashing lights. The family appears on a sadistic Japanese game show where they're forced to eat massive amounts of wasabi and endure brutal physical torment for the entertainment of a laughing studio audience. The depiction of Emperor Akihito was the breaking point. In Japanese culture, the emperor is a sacred figure whose dignity is absolutely sacrosanct. Having Homer Simpson physically assault the emperor and throw him in the trash wasn't edgy comedy to Japanese audiences. It was a profound cultural insult. The episode has never aired on Japanese television. Never. It was excluded from the Japanese season 10 DVD release entirely. It remains unavailable on Disney Plus in Japan. The ban has been in place for over 25 years, with zero indication it will ever be lifted. But Japan wasn't the only country offended. The episode was also permanently banned in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, according to the DVD audio commentary. South Korea initially banned it as well, only lifting the restriction in 2007 after years of the ban being in place. UC Berkeley professor Thomas B. Gold wrote an entire academic thesis using this episode as a case study for how American pop media communicates cultural biases and stereotypes about Asia. The episode became required viewing in media studies courses as an example of what not to do when portraying foreign cultures. Multiple countries across Asia looked at this single 22-minute episode and decided their citizens should never be allowed to see it. The show's writers have acknowledged the controversy, but never really apologized for it. Al Jean mentioned on the commentary track that they knew the episode pushed boundaries, but didn't anticipate the scale of the backlash. The episode remains available in the United States and most Western countries without any restrictions. American fans can watch it on Disney Plus right now. But if you're in Japan, China, Hong Kong, or Taiwan, this episode simply does not exist in any legal form. No streaming service carries it, no DVD contains it, no television broadcast has ever shown it. It's the longest running permanent ban of any Simpsons episode by foreign governments. But at least those bans came from foreign countries with different cultural standards. The next episode caused massive backlash in America itself, with organized campaigns and an unprecedented content warning that's never been used on any other Simpsons episode before or since. There's something about marrying. This is the first and only Simpsons episode in 36 years to carry a viewer discretion advise warning before the opening credits. In season 16's There's Something About Marrying, Springfield legalizes same-sex marriage to boost tourism revenue. Homer becomes an ordained minister so he can officiate weddings for profit. Patty Bouvier, Marge's sister, comes out as a lesbian and announces plans to marry her partner. The episode aired on February 20th, 2005 at the absolute peak of America's same-sex marriage debate. Massachusetts had legalized it 1 year earlier. 11 states had just voted to ban it in the 2004 elections. The cultural battlefield was at its most heated, and The Simpsons walked directly into the middle of it. Fox slapped the episode with a TV 14 rating for suggestive dialogue and added a viewer discretion warning that appeared on screen before the episode started. No other Simpsons episode has ever received this treatment. Not episodes with graphic violence, not episodes with drug references, not episodes dealing with suicide or death, only this one. The warning immediately signaled to conservative advocacy groups that this was a target worth attacking. L. Brent Bozell III, president of the Parents Television Council, issued a statement declaring, "At a time when the public mood is overwhelmingly against gay marriage, any show that promotes gay marriage is deliberately bucking the public mood. You've got a show watched by millions of children. Do children need to have gay marriage thrust in their faces as an issue?" The American Family Association condemned the episode as evidence of Hollywood's blatant pro-homosexuality bias and encouraged their members to contact Fox advertisers to complain. These weren't isolated complaints. These were organized national advocacy groups with mailing lists in the millions mounting coordinated campaigns to pressure the network. In Australia, the episode received an M rating with explicit parental advisory warnings attached to every broadcast. The episode became a frontline skirmish in the culture war, with both sides using it as evidence for their positions. GLAAD praised the episode for its positive portrayal of same-sex relationships. Conservative groups condemned it as propaganda aimed at children. Showrunner Al Jean tried to maintain neutrality in interviews, saying, "We don't really take any positions for or against anything. I think anyone who would get their political wisdom from a cartoon might be sadly mistaken." But the content warning told a different story. Fox's decision to label this episode as requiring viewer discretion was itself a political statement. It marked same-sex marriage as inherently controversial content that parents needed to be warned about in advance. Television columnist Ray Richmond called the episode a cultural milestone, not just for what it depicted, but for the intensity of the backlash it generated. The unprecedented content warning remains unique in Simpsons history, a permanent marker of how deeply this episode polarized the American public at a specific moment in cultural history. But organized campaigns and content warnings are one thing. The next controversy didn't just target one episode. It destroyed a beloved character, ended a 30-year voice acting career, and changed industry-wide casting policies across all of animated television. The APU controversy. A comedian's documentary didn't just spark backlash against one episode. It toppled a 30-year-old character and forced the entire animation industry to change how it casts voice actors. In November 2017, comedian Hari Kondabolu released a documentary called The Problem with Apu, examining how Apu Nahasapima the Indian convenience store owner, voiced by white actor Hank Azaria since 1990, had reinforced harmful stereotypes for an entire generation. The film featured interviews with Kal Penn, Aziz Ansari, and former U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, all describing real-world bullying and harassment they experienced that was directly tied to Apu's character. South Asian Americans talked about being mocked with Apu's accent, being called Apu as a slur, and watching convenience store workers get harassed with Apu impressions. The Simpsons responded in April 2018 with an episode called No Good Read Goes Unpunished. Marge reads Lisa a politically incorrect book from her childhood. Lisa looks at a framed photo of Apu on her nightstand and breaks the fourth wall, saying directly to the camera, something that started decades ago and was applauded and inoffensive is now politically incorrect. What can you do? Then she shrugs. That was the entire response. The backlash was immediate, universal, and absolutely ferocious. Kondabolu tweeted, "Wow, politically incorrect? That's the takeaway from my movie and the discussion it sparked? Man, I really love this show. This is sad." Comedian W. Kamau Bell tweeted, "The Simpsons, 1989 to 2018, #RIP. NPR ran a headline that said The Simpsons to the problem with Apu drop dead. CNN, BuzzFeed, Vox, and virtually every major media outlet covered the social media firestorm. What happened next changed television forever. Hank Azaria went through a personal reckoning that he described in multiple interviews. He said when hate crimes were perpetrated against South Asian people, a lot of times they were just called Apu. It became a slur when convenience store guys were stabbed or shot or robbed. In January 2020, Azaria formally stepped down from voicing Apu after 30 years. He later issued a full public apology stating, I apologize for my part in creating that and participating in that. Part of me feels I need to go round to every single Indian person in this country and apologize. Matt Groening initially dismissed the criticism in interviews, saying, I think it's a time in our culture where people love to pretend they're offended. But the show quietly retired Apu to silent background appearances with no speaking lines. Then in June 2020, The Simpsons announced that white actors would no longer voice characters of color. Carl Carlson was recast with Alex Desire, a black actor, replacing Hank Azaria. Dr. Hibbert was recast with Kevin Michael Richardson, also black, replacing Harry Shearer. This wasn't just a Simpsons decision. Big Mouth immediately recast Missy from Jenny Slate to Ayo Edebiri. Central Park recast Molly from Kristen Bell to Emmy Raver Lampman. Family Guy, BoJack Horseman, and other animated shows followed with similar casting changes. An entire industry shifted its policies because of this one controversy. The Apu situation didn't just create backlash against a single episode. It permanently altered a beloved character, ended a voice actor's 3-decade career with the show, and catalyzed an industry-wide reckoning about representation and casting in animated television. The cultural shockwave extended far beyond Springfield and changed how every animated show in production thought about voice casting going forward. Documentaries have been made about it. Academic papers have analyzed it. It became a defining moment in the conversation about representation in media. But even that massive industry-changing controversy doesn't compare to what happened with the final episode, because the next one wasn't banned by a foreign government. It wasn't censored by network executives. executives. It wasn't targeted by advocacy groups, it was erased from existence by its own creators. Stark raving, Dad. This is the only Simpsons episode that has been permanently erased from existence by its own creators. In Season 3's Stark Raving Dad, which aired on September 19th, 1991, Homer wears a pink shirt to work after Bart throws his red hat in with the white laundry. His co-workers assume he's mentally unstable, and he gets committed to a psychiatric hospital where he meets Leon Kompowski, a large white man who genuinely believes he's Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson himself voiced the character under the pseudonym John J. Smith because contractual obligations with his record label prevented him from being officially credited. Kip Lennon performed the singing parts for the same reason. Jackson was a devoted Simpsons fan who personally called Matt Groening to volunteer for the role. The episode features the iconic Happy Birthday Lisa song that Homer and Leon write together for Lisa's birthday. For nearly 3 decades, this was considered one of the show's most beloved episodes. Then in March 2019, HBO released Leaving Neverland, a 4-hour documentary in which 2 men, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, provided detailed allegations of childhood sexual abuse by Michael Jackson. The documentary reignited global conversations about Jackson's legacy and whether his art could be separated from the accusations against him. Within days of the documentary's release, executive producers James L. Brooks, Matt Groening, and Al Jean made a unanimous decision. The episode would be permanently removed from all forms of distribution everywhere in the world. Brooks told the Wall Street Journal, "It feels clearly the only choice to make. The guys I work with, where we spend our lives arguing over jokes, were of one mind on this." His most memorable statement came when he said, "I'm against book burning of any kind, but this is our book, and we're allowed to take out a chapter." Al Jean went even further in an interview with the Daily Beast, stating that he believed Michael Jackson appeared in the episode specifically because it was part of what he used to groom boys. Jean's statement suggested that Jackson's participation wasn't just about being a fan of the show. It was potentially part of a larger pattern of behavior designed to make himself more likable and trustworthy to children. Whether or not that's true, the creators clearly believed they had unwittingly participated in something darker than they realized at the time. The episode was immediately pulled from syndication across all networks. It was deleted from FXX's on-demand streaming service. It was excluded from all future DVD and Blu-ray releases of Season 3. It remains the only Simpsons episode unavailable on Disney+. Physical media containing the episode was discontinued and is no longer manufactured. The irony is devastating. The episode had originally aired as a tribute to Michael Jackson. After his death in June 2009, the show re-aired it as a memorial. By 2019, later seasons of The Simpsons had already started acknowledging how strange the episode was in retrospect. In a season 26 episode, Bart mentions that he once shared his bedroom with a fully grown stranger, and Homer admits it was different times. But acknowledging the weirdness wasn't enough. The creators decided the episode needed to be completely erased. There is no legal way to watch Stark Raving Dad anywhere in the world today. Not on streaming, not on DVD, not in syndication, not on cable. Bootleg copies exist online, but officially, the episode has been removed from the canon of The Simpsons. This is unprecedented in television history. Foreign governments have banned Simpsons episodes in their countries, but those episodes remain available elsewhere. Network censors have edited dialogue, but the original versions get restored on home video. Controversial episodes get pulled temporarily and then returned to rotation. Stark Raving Dad is gone forever. Not edited, not restricted, not delayed, annihilated from the official record by the same people who created it. The creators compared their decision to book burning and did it anyway, making this the most extreme act of self-censorship in American animated television history. No backlash from fans, no pressure from advocacy groups, no threats from foreign governments. Just 3 men deciding that this chapter of their own story needed to be erased completely. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.